Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if the worst moment of your life wasn't the end? What if it was the raw material? Because right now, somewhere deep down, you already feel it. You know you're capable of more. But you're tired, burned out, maybe embarrassed by where you are. And you keep thinking, once things get easier, I'll change. But here's the brutal truth David Goggins learned the hard way. Things don't get easier. You get stronger. And that strength usually starts at rock bottom. Now, wait till you hear this. David Goggins didn't grow up strong. He grew up scared. As a kid, he lived in what he calls the abyss. An abusive father, constant fear, poverty, chaos. The kind of environment where your nervous system never relaxes, where survival becomes your personality. By the time he was a teenager, Goggins could barely read. He was overweight, depressed, quiet, invisible. Fast forward a few years. He's nearly 300 pounds, working a dead-end job spraying cockroaches, living off fast food and excuses. No discipline, no confidence, no vision. And this part matters, because this is where most stories would end. But one night, he saw a documentary about Navy SEAL training. Elite, impossible, brutal. And something inside him snapped. Not inspiration, not motivation, disgust. Disgust with who he had allowed himself to become. Here's where it gets real. He stood in front of a mirror, shaved his head, and told himself the truth. No affirmations, no positive thinking, just radical honesty. I'm lazy. I'm weak. I'm scared. And this is my fault. That mirror became his weapon. He called it the accountability mirror. And this is where your hero's journey begins too. Because rock bottom does one powerful thing. It removes denial. When you stop lying to yourself, you finally get leverage. Goggins didn't say, I deserve better. He said, I need to earn better. Doctors told him he had to lose over 100 pounds in 3 months just to qualify for SEAL training. 3 months. Most people would laugh, or quit quietly, or post a motivational quote and do nothing. He chose pain. Running, starving, training until his body rebelled. Not because it felt good, but because it was necessary. And here's the mindset shift most people miss. Pain wasn't the enemy. Avoiding pain was. That's the first lesson of this story. Rock bottom isn't there to punish you. It's there to wake you up. Now, before you think this is just a Goggins is built different story, pause. Because what changed his life wasn't genetics. It was one idea. The idea that your mind quits long before your body does. Later, he would call this the 40% rule. When you think you're done, when every voice in your head says stop, you're only about 40% finished. The rest is locked behind discomfort. And that's terrifying. Because it means your limits aren't real, they're negotiated. Most people negotiate down. Goggins decided to renegotiate up. But don't miss this part. He didn't suddenly become confident. He didn't feel powerful. He felt miserable, scared, overwhelmed. He just refused to stop. And that's the difference. You don't turn rock bottom into power by feeling ready. You do it by moving anyway. One hard step, one uncomfortable choice, one honest look in the mirror. So let me ask you, what truth are you avoiding right now? Because the moment you face it, you stop being a victim of your past and start becoming dangerous to your future limits. And we're just getting started. Because next, we're going to talk about the mindset that lets you keep going when everything in you wants to quit.
Here's something no one warns you about. The moment you decide to change your life, your mind becomes your biggest enemy. Not your schedule, not your past, not your genetics, your own thoughts. Goggins discovered this the hard way during training. Every time his body screamed, his mind whispered something dangerous. Good enough. That whisper is what keeps people average. So here's the uncomfortable question. What if the voice telling you to quit isn't protecting you, it's controlling you? Wait till you hear this. Goggins realized that pain isn't a stop sign, it's a checkpoint. When most people feel pain, they interpret it as a signal to stop. He learned to interpret it as proof he was entering new territory. That's where the 40% rule comes in. When your brain says, "I can't do this anymore," you're usually not injured. You're not broken. You're just uncomfortable. Your brain has a built-in governor. Its job is to keep you safe, but safety and growth are enemies. That governor pulls the emergency brake early, long before your actual limits. Goggins learned to recognize the moment that brake engaged. Burning lungs, shaking legs, doubt spiraling. That moment most people stop, he started. Now, here's the twist most people miss. This isn't about screaming at yourself or pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about disassociating emotion from action. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You don't need confidence to take the next step. You just need a system. And that's where the cookie jar comes in. Picture this. You're exhausted. Everything hurts. You want out. Instead of arguing with your pain, you reach into your memory. You pull out moments you survived. Not Instagram wins, not highlight reels, real moments. That time you didn't quit when you could have. That heartbreak you lived through. That failure you thought ended you, but didn't. Those are cookies. Proof of resilience. When your mind says, "You're done," you respond with evidence. "I've been here before, and I survived." This matters because motivation fades, but memory doesn't. Your past strength becomes fuel for your present weakness, and slowly, something changes. Your mind stops panicking at discomfort. It starts expecting it. This is how you build a calloused mind. Just like your hands harden from lifting weights, your mind hardens from repeated exposure to stress. Cold showers, early mornings, hard conversations, long workouts when you don't feel like it. Not because they're extreme, but because they train your nervous system to stay calm under pressure. Here's a relatable moment. Ever notice how the smallest inconvenience can ruin someone's day? Traffic, a slow internet connection, a bad email. That's not weakness, that's lack of exposure. A soft life creates a fragile mind. Goggins chose the opposite. He made himself uncomfortable on purpose, so when life hit him unexpectedly, he didn't collapse. He adapted. And here's where it flips back to you. You don't need Hell Week. You don't need ultra marathons. You need consistency in discomfort. Doing the thing you don't want to do every single day. Not dramatically, deliberately. Because discipline isn't about intensity. It's about identity. You don't say, "I'll try." You say, "I'm someone who doesn't quit." That identity is built through action, not intention. And yes, this is where it gets lonely. People around you won't understand. They'll say you're doing too much, that you're being extreme, that you should relax. But here's the secret. When you stay disciplined in chaos, you start taking souls. Not by dominating people, but by outlasting excuses. While others complain, you work. While others negotiate, you execute. And the energy in the room shifts. People feel it. Because deep down, discipline is intimidating. But don't worry, we're not even at the hardest part yet. Next, we're going into the moment when your body breaks, but your mind refuses to.
There's a moment in every real transformation that feels terrifyingly quiet. No motivation, no adrenaline, no cheering crowd, just you, and the option to quit. This is the moment most people never talk about, because it's not cinematic, it's not inspiring, it's lonely. Goggins met this moment during Hell Week, sleep-deprived, soaked, freezing, running on fractured bones and a body that should have shut down. And here's what shocked him. It wasn't pain that nearly broke him. It was choice. Because at any second he could ring the bell. Warmth, rest, relief. That bell represents every easy exit in your life. Scrolling instead of starting, comfort instead of growth,
excuses instead of ownership. The bell isn't loud, it's seductive. And this is where Goggins learned a brutal truth. Rock bottom doesn't build you. What you do at rock bottom does. Wait, this part matters. When your body breaks, your mind looks for permission to stop. Doctors gave Goggins reasons. Instructors gave him opportunities. His past gave him excuses. But he made one decision. I don't negotiate with weakness. That doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let emotion make decisions for you. He separated how he felt from what he did. That's power. Because feelings change hourly. Identity doesn't. And this is where most people misunderstand mental toughness. It's not rage. It's not hype. It's calm commitment. It's showing up when nothing inside you wants to. You don't need confidence here. You need clarity. Why are you doing this? Not the motivational answer, the honest one. Because when things fall apart, your why either carries you or collapses. Goggins' why wasn't fame, it wasn't approval, it was control. Control over his mind, control over his narrative. He refused to let his past decide his future. And here's the hard pill to swallow. Pain doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It just waits. You can delay discomfort, but you can't escape it. Avoid the work now, you pay with regret later. Do the work now, you pay with growth. Either way, you pay. So the question isn't, will this hurt? The question is, which pain do I choose? And here's the shift that changes everything. When you stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to be stronger, your entire identity changes. You stop seeing obstacles as punishments. You see them as training. Bad days? Training. Failure? Training. Rejection? Training. This is why Goggins talks about embracing the suck, not because suffering is the goal, but because suffering is the teacher. Every hard moment asks one question. Who are you when it's uncomfortable? And most people don't know the answer, because they've never stayed long enough to find out. But you're different now, because you're starting to see something. That your lowest moments are not proof you're weak. They're proof you're being tested. And tests are invitations. Invitations to rise. Here's a quick reality check. You don't need more motivation. You don't need better timing. You need fewer negotiations with your own excuses. The strongest people you admire aren't special. They're consistent. They showed up on days they hated. They stayed when quitting was easier. They kept promises no one else could see. And slowly, their rock bottom became their foundation. That's the part nobody shows on social media. The silent reps, the lonely mornings, the unseen discipline. But those moments compound, just like interest, just like habits, just like identity. And eventually, you look back and realize something shocking. The thing you thought would break you built you. And now there's only one question left. What happens after you survive your lowest point? Because the finish line doesn't exist. And comfort is the enemy you haven't met yet. That's what we're breaking down next.
Here's the part nobody warns you about. Rock bottom doesn't end with fireworks. There's no dramatic music, no sudden feeling of victory. What comes next is responsibility. Because once you've proven to yourself that you can survive pain, you can no longer pretend you're powerless. That's the real transformation. After Hell Week, after the failures, after the broken bones and sleepless nights, Goggins didn't feel finished. He felt exposed, because now he knew the truth. Limits are optional. And once you know that, life gets harder, not easier. Why? Because comfort becomes a trap. Most people think the goal is to escape suffering. Goggins realized the goal is to outgrow it. That's why he kept going. Ultramarathons, pull-up records, endurance races that destroyed his body, not to prove anything to the world, but to reinforce something to himself. I am in control. And this is where your story connects to his. You don't need to run 100 miles. You don't need to join the military. Your version of hard is enough. Your mind doesn't know the difference between a battlefield and a difficult conversation, between a marathon and showing up when you want to disappear. The same rule applies. When your mind says, I'm done, you're not. You're negotiating, and every time you push past that moment, you rewrite your identity. This is how rock bottom becomes power, not by escaping it, by using it. Your past stops being a wound, it becomes a weapon. Every time doubt creeps in, you reach into your own cookie jar. That breakup you survived, that failure that didn't kill you, that version of you that almost quit but didn't. Those are receipts, proof that you're tougher than your excuses. And here's the mindset shift that changes everything. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. Motivation fades, pain returns, life stays unpredictable, but standards are permanent. Goggins didn't wake up motivated, he woke up committed. There's a difference. Motivation asks, how do I feel? Commitment asks, what needs to be done? One builds emotions, the other builds character, and character is what carries you when motivation disappears. This is why he says, I don't stop when I'm tired. I stop when I'm done. Not because he's superhuman, but because he decided fatigue doesn't get a vote. Now let me be honest with you. This path isn't glamorous. People will misunderstand you. They'll call you obsessed. They'll say you're doing too much. Let them. Because the same people will ask later, how did you change so much? And you'll know the answer. You suffered on purpose. You chose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, ownership over excuses, and slowly, quietly, you became dangerous. Not to others, to your old self, the one who settled, the one who avoided pain, the one who waited for permission. That version doesn't survive when standards rise. And here's the final truth Goggins leaves us with. No one is coming to save you. Not motivation, not luck, not timing. But that's not bad news. That's freedom. Because if no one is coming, it means it's on you. And if it's on you, it means you have power. Power to decide, power to endure, power to rebuild. Rock bottom isn't the end. It's the raw material. The question is, what are you going to build with it? Because comfort will always be available. The easy path will always exist. But greatness? Greatness only shows up when you do. And if this message hit something deep, if it made you uncomfortable in a good way, don't scroll past it. Stay, subscribe, and start becoming the person your excuses have been trying to hide. Because the truth is, you're capable of far more than you've ever demanded from yourself.